So today I'm working on Allie, just showing kind of the length of the hair right now. Quite long, it's kind of an old grown out haircut. Gonna work her into something a bit shorter, a bit more of a bob, kind of release some of the texture and use her natural wave. So just started out with a section that went straight down the center and then kind of worked off into some different zones here. So just showing off the sectioning. So 3 on the top that sit above the parietal ridge, and then kind of 1 zone down through the bottom. So I'm gonna start by taking a middle section through the back. And I'm gonna take a horizontal section through the bottom of the left side. And just bringing everything down, just using finger width elevation. I'm just gonna cut right on the skin. Just cutting a square line, so keeping my fingers parallel to the floor. I'm gonna do the same thing on the opposite side. So on this particular haircut, I'm gonna work side to side instead of the entire left first and then the entire right. I think that'll just help me with the balance a bit more. So same thing, just bringing everything down, keeping my elevation really low, and just working everything down onto the skin, and just cutting it in my fingers. Nice square line. Spraying some of the Prep and Protect spray into the hair, just to keep it damp, keep it consistent so I can keep my tension the same. Section 2, same thing. Just bringing everything down, cutting on my guideline. So what we're gonna get is a little bit of a graduation, but mostly it's a line. Just that slight finger width of elevation will help to kind of raise it up. So after I cut my guide, now I'm just working up the whole left side. Just bringing everything down to that 1 guide point. So last section through here in the back. So just brought everything down, cut on the same guideline, working through the opposite side now. So I'm just working the back. You can see where I've got it separated from the top of the ear into the front hairline. So we're just working these 2 panels through the back. So same thing on the opposite side that I did on the first, bringing everything down, keeping everything square to the cutting line. Just cutting on my guide with just a little bit of elevation in my fingers. It's important to keep the section sizing the same. So each section was the same size, and it doesn't show it, but I was continuously spraying the hair because I want to keep an even dampness, and that'll help with the tension and will allow me to have a more consistent result. So last one through the back. Just bringing everything down to that guideline, creating a nice, clean, solid outline through the back. So as I work into the front, a little bit different. I'm gonna start with a long diagonal back section, and we're just gonna connect these 2 links, the front and the back. So each section is just a long diagonal back, slightly diagonal towards the back, just following the roundness of the head. And then I step around to the side and I use that length from my back corner as my guide for the front and just continue that into the front hairline. Now you can make adjustments here by changing your finger angle, changing the cutting line, changing the elevation. I'm still choosing to keep everything really low. I want to create a nice solid exterior for the haircut and have a little bit more looseness through the inside. Just tapping above the ear just a little bit as to not create a hole. just connecting through with that back link that we cut initially. You'll notice too, I've got the head slightly tilted to the left because I can't rest my fingers on the skin in the back. So I have to tilt the head away so I can maintain the same elevation that I did through the back. So really just cutting everything that lives within that side. I kind of left the longer bits in the front where the fringe lives, because we're going to go back and address that later. Same thing on the opposite side. Long diagonal back sections. Here you can really see it, how it works in through to the back. Just clipping that out of the way, and then using the back length as a guide for the front. So you'll notice everything that kind of lives in that fringe area, I'm isolating. I'm not letting it come down, because I'll deal with that in a few minutes. Last section, with the head slightly tilted away. Just connecting that guideline from the back end through the sides. Just creates a nice strong perimeter shape. So now we're going to work in through the fringe. So all that length that we left out, we're going back to the original sectioning. So taking a diagonal back section, and there you can see I'm showing where the connection is going to come in. So just going to work a fringe over to that temple area and make sure that I'm not cutting past that. That's why I isolated this section out. So really the same thing through the fringe as I did through the back, bringing everything down, cutting a nice solid guideline, just the slightest bit of elevation. And then I'm just moving around the head as I cut so it slightly rounds the edge. I don't want it to get longer from the center to the outside. I want it to stay the same. So just moving my body will keep me from over-directing. Last one, bringing everything straight down where it lives, making sure that I'm not bringing any of that hairline hair over into the fringe. Same thing on the opposite side, slight diagonal back section. I'll just use the length from the first side as my guide. Just slightly step around with each section that I take. Last section here, just really looking at how the hair falls, bringing everything down to its natural falling position, not forcing the hair to go front or back, really just where it naturally falls, how it grows out of the head is the best way for me to achieve something that's going to be easy for her to style. Kind of lifting the hair, releasing some of the texture through the underneath. Really want to see how it's going to react to the length change. Whenever you take off length like that, it gets a little lighter, so it just allows it to jump up a bit more. So into the top section there in the back, Just working a vertical section through the middle. Then I'm just elevating the hair. I'm going to use the length from the line that I created underneath as my guide. And I'm going to create a rounder shape through the top. So just elevating and following the shape of the head. You're just showing what my sectioning pattern is going to be. So just vertical sections, everything comes straight backwards. So not going to over direct 2 to 1, but I am going to use section 1 as my guide for 2. And then section 2 will be the guide for 3, so on and so forth. Not over directing everything straight backwards, just everything to the previous guide. So here's section 3 to 2. Section 4 to 3. Same thing on the opposite side. You'll notice I'm pushing away from me, just because I feel like it's easier to cut working from the shorter point to the longer point on the top. If I was standing on the opposite side, I feel like I would have to lean over too far to make it work. Again, just releasing the texture, seeing how it's going to fall. Working into the side panel, showing my sections vertically. Take a vertical section, use the last section from the back one that I just cut as my guide. There's the length on the underneath. So that's section 1 through the side. Now section 2 gets over directed back to section 1. So what we're doing is making the front longer. So you can really see the over direction here, pulling everything backwards. So we get is a little bit of a disconnect. So the overlay falls over the line that we cut on the perimeter. With our texture, it's just going to make a really nice kind of swingy, kind of curly length change. So same thing on the opposite side, using my last guide, and then over directing everything back to the first section on the new side. So 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, so on and so forth. Everything all the way back. Get a kind of idea about what the finished look's going to be here. So just something that's very loose and tousled. All right, so for the style, I'm using a little bit of the styling whip. So it's just a foam that's going to help kind of keep the curls intact, but it's not super crunchy on the hair. So it'll allow it to dry with its natural texture, but it's not going to have a ton of buildup. So really just working that through the hair. I want to get enough in there that it coats it and doesn't allow the hair to kind of frizz out as I blow dry it, but I don't want to put too much in to where it weighs it down too much. So really just using my fingers as a brush to get the saturation of the product in really nice. A little bit goes a long way with this stuff. Same thing through the front, working it in through the fringe. Whenever working a style like this, I think it's important to kind of do it the way that she would. So she's going to use her fingers the most. I don't see her picking up a brush or any kind of setting, tool to make it do what she wants to do. So just using my hands, getting the shape set in. The haircut's pretty much done. Tilting the head, just kind of lifting the hair, really activating the curl. I just want it to dry naturally. So just using a sock diffuser just to speed up the drying time. Get my hands in it a little bit, but I don't want to touch and disturb it too much. Once we kind of get it dried out, you can really see the texture, so I can be a little bit more aggressive, really kind of lift the hair and get it to separate. You know, you want it to dry nice and strong, but you don't want it to be too crunchy. So as far as refinement goes on this haircut, just picking up little pieces of the curl that I want to kind of change a bit and just slide cutting out. Not really changing the technique too much, just adding little bits of texture in where I feel like they would be most desirable. So just working my way around the head. It's a very visual way of working. But it's very little hair coming off. I don't want to go in and be too aggressive. So coming in with the finishing texture spray, really just want to create some volume, give the hair some lift, a little bit of movement and hold. Just getting my hands in it, really moving it around. I think it's a good balance for her. I think it's something easy that she can do on her own. Not a lot of fuss. Very modern, very young. Hope you guys like it.